On September 4th, 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire ended without a fight. A teenage emperor named Romulus Augustulus surrendered his position to a Germanic chieftain, bringing a formal end to 1,000 years of Roman rule. The political machine that once governed 3 continents was disassembled. The imperial regalia, the crowns and robes of the emperors, were packed into crates and shipped east to Constantinople, leaving Rome a capital without an empire. This line chart tracks the resulting physical collapse. At its peak, the city was home to over 1 million people. Following the government's exit, that number plummeted to roughly 20,000, a level of decay that left the city nearly empty. The survivors lived inside a crumbling shell. Architecture that had been the pride of the ancient world was scavenged for parts. The Colosseum was stripped of its marble and used as a convenient stone quarry for local building projects. The Roman Forum, once the center of the known world, filled with so much dirt and debris that the ancient street level vanished. For centuries, cows grazed on top of the buried temples, in a pasture the locals called the Campo Vicino. History is full of ghost towns. Normally, when the population vanishes and the infrastructure is buried in the mud, the story ends. But the city of Rome didn't disappear. As the emperors left, the local bishops, the popes, remained. They inherited a city with broken aqueducts and empty granaries, and over the next millennium, their spiritual authority became the only functional form of government left in Rome. To survive, the city developed a religious economy. It transformed into a destination for traveling pilgrims, who arrived by the thousands to visit sacred relics, providing the steady stream of donations and trade needed to keep the city from being abandoned. By the 15th century, the city's leaders stopped viewing the ancient ruins as mere rubble. Wealthy scholars and popes began to actively study the classical architecture, using the ancient structures as the physical foundations for a massive rebuilding effort. This investment reached a peak in the 16th century, with projects of staggering scale. Michelangelo spent 4 years painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling, a grueling commission that required a level of financial and artistic commitment the city hadn't seen since the age of the emperors. Simultaneously, the church began raising St. Peter's Basilica. It took over a century to build the largest church in the world, and they placed it directly over the ancient burial grounds, literally stacking the new city on top of the old. Rome was no longer a ghost town. It was using its ancient, holy geography as the bedrock for a second life. By the 17th century, Rome had secured its position as the cultural capital of the Western world. It lacked the military power of the ancient empire, but it exerted a different kind of influence through art and architecture. To compete with the rise of Protestantism, the church launched a visual rebranding campaign designed to overwhelm the senses. This style, the Baroque, was meant to project an image of power and theatricality to anyone who entered the city. Pope Urban VIII commissioned Gian Lorenzo Bernini, seen here, to execute this vision. Bernini possessed a technical mastery of stone that allowed him to turn massive blocks of marble into figures that appeared to be in motion. Bernini redesigned the city's public squares to be theatrical stages. At St. Peter's, he built these sweeping colonnades, using 4 rows of columns to create an architectural embrace that could hold thousands of people at once. He also populated the city with dynamic monuments like the Fountain of the 4 Rivers. Here, muscular marble figures twist around a central obelisk, creating a sense of constant movement that turned the city's streets into an open-air gallery. This architectural drama turned Rome into an essential destination for the European elite. By the 18th century, a journey to study these monuments, the Grand Tour, became a mandatory part of a high society education, ensuring Rome's cultural dominance long after its legions were gone. The Trevi Fountain is perhaps the most famous product of this era. Completed in 1762, its towering Baroque facade is a masterclass in the theatrical style that the city's leaders used to reassert their global influence. But there is a hidden fact behind the fountain's beauty. The water flowing through it is still delivered by the Aqua Virgo. This is a functioning Roman aqueduct built in 19 BC, and it has been moving water along this same route for 2,000 years. This single site reveals how the city works. It is 18th century art, built on top of 15th century ambition and powered by 1st century engineering. Rome survived the total collapse of its empire because it refused to become a stagnant relic. By allowing itself to be continuously overwritten and layered, it transformed from a buried ghost town into an eternal city.